Incredible revelation, Mafia boss exposes hidden suffering of Maid, unleashing a transformative journey of courage and art. Mia stared blankly at the meticulously arranged shelves of Vincent's expansive art collection, her mind racing while her hands instinctively dusted the surfaces. Each brush of cloth felt heavier than the last, amplifying unspoken pain that gnawed at her every waking moment. Just yesterday, a neighbor had whispered something, a simple comment heard through half-closed blinds about immigrants taking our jobs. Those words hung like a shadow over her, burdening her spirit as she struggled to provide for her 2 young children, their smiles her only solace. As she glided between vaulted ceilings and intricately designed fixtures, Mia challenged herself to breathe evenly. She had to push through, to drown out the relentless tide of prejudice. Yet every polishing stroke felt like a reminder of her position, a maid in a gilded cage, forever trapped in her economic despair. When Vincent wandered in, the former Mafia boss with eyes that hinted at untold stories, she could barely look him in the eye. He represented everything she thought she would never be: a success fueled by ambition rather than circumstance. While she quietly admired the artwork that surrounded her, Vincent's unexpected presence snapped her back to the task at hand. "Mia," he said, curiosity breaking through his composed demeanor, "what's in that closet?" He gestured to a space she'd sectioned off for her cleaning supplies. She felt a pang of panic. Her hidden canvas lay just beyond that door, an extension of herself she wasn't ready to share. Every stroke held an embedded sorrow: the aching loss of her husband, the burning desire for a better life for her children. It felt like unveiling a part of her soul. The weight of this secret pressed against her chest as she considered his question. Should she reveal her vulnerability and risk his judgment? The thought of being seen as nothing more than a maid, an undocumented worker with dreams too large for her circumstances, made her skin crawl. Yet, as Vincent opened the closet door, an exquisite mixture of fear and hope coursed through her veins like a drug. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Vincent's eyes widened as the paintings emerged, raw, emotional, revealing a tapestry of unfiltered anguish and fleeting joy. It was a reflection of her struggle, a candid look at her fight against survival. "You paint?" he asked, a look of genuine intrigue washing over his face, igniting a flicker in Mia's chest. This was a side of her she had never dared to share. She could see his past in her paintings, shadows of hope entwined with years of pain. But as the bond between them deepened, so did the anxiety of judgment outside those walls. The whispers would grow louder if they discovered the truth that a former Mafia kingpin was taking an interest in the art of a struggling maid. Guilt shadowed Vincent's gaze at times, and Mia felt the pressure mounting. Each day felt like a ticking clock, an imminent explosion of judgment that held the potential to unravel everything she'd worked for. Would she become a target if her aspirations shone too brightly? In that moment of mutual understanding, Mia felt the pulse of fear leap in her throat. The stakes of dignity versus dreams loomed larger than life, threatening to consume not only her but the fragile connection they were building. Mia stood at a precipice, the weight of her choices palpable, while shadows of the world's judgment waited just beyond the door. As anxiety swirled around her like a storm, she knew one truth: every decision she made now might redefine her existence, amplifying the stakes more than ever. Would she risk laying bare her talent and heart while battling an unforgiving world? Mia held her breath as Vincent observed her collection of paintings, each one a vivid landscape of her struggles and triumphs. The stark contrast between her life and his seemed to grow more evident with every passing second. Why had she felt compelled to showcase her vulnerability? It felt like opening a door to a hidden room. Once it was ajar, there was no closing it again. "Your work is powerful," he said, his tone now imbued with a respect that momentarily soothed her nerves. "It speaks of pain and hope." The compliment felt intoxicating. She had created these pieces not for anyone but herself, a product of her hidden anguish and relentless dreams. Yet now, those intimate creations stood naked before someone who could, with a few words, change the trajectory of her life. The notion paralyzed her, and between hope and despair, she teetered. What if it captures their curiosity? She asked, her heart speeding up. What if they see me not just as a maid, but as a failure with delusions of grandeur? Vincent paused, studying her face. That's a risk you have to determine for yourself. But look around, this space is not filled with mere decoration. It's filled with stories. Just like yours. His encouragement flickered like a candle in the dark corners of her mind. Could she dare? The fear of exposure battled with an allure for self-expression. In that moment, Vincent wasn't just an art collector, he had become an unexpected mentor, someone who could cultivate her artistic voice or shatter it to pieces. As she took a step closer to him, her fingers brushed against the vibrant canvas painted with splashes of azure and gold. The colors she felt embodied resilience. I can show you what I'm capable of, she murmured, resolve wrapping around her words like a lifeline. She was toying with the idea of exhibition, launching into a domain where she'd previously only dared to dream. Then let's plan, Vincent said, capturing her attention. We can work together to present your art. But first, I need to understand your vision. What do you want people to feel when they look at these? His approach forced Mia to confront herself. They were no longer just paintings. They had transformed into beacons for her unvoiced struggles, illuminating the very essence of her being. The thought excited and terrified her, and in that space shared with Vincent, once a mobster, now a connoisseur, she felt a flutter of validation, yet beneath that excitement lay a hidden dread. Sharing her art outside these walls meant risking rejection, igniting the very whispers that had haunted her. Could she withstand that judgment? The reality pressed upon her once more, heavy as the cleaning duties that awaited her. People will talk, she said, feeling the familiar pang of doubt stir within. Let them. His assertive reply resonated deep within her. The weight of his encouragement appeared formidable but liberating. Ignoring the judgment expelled from others' mouths required an internal fortitude she hadn't known she possessed. Mia considered the road ahead. This confluence of ambition and anxiety developed into something tangible as she imagined setting up her first exhibition, showing her work to the world. That night, sleep eluded her restless mind, the thoughts swirling like eddies in a murky pond. She envisioned proposing an exhibition to the local community art gallery, a bold step that could either elevate her ambitions or expose her insecurities. She soon learned one critical thing: it transcended the act of painting, it became about living her truth. She could remain within the shadows or claim her narrative, unearthing the power of her experience through every brushstroke. The thought brought new clarity, igniting the fire inside her once more. But the moment of truth was approaching, a defining decision looming. Would she step into the light, risking everything for the dream she longed to chase? Empowerment pushed at her edges like the tides, but the fear of failure remained a sharp knife she couldn't ignore. As the first rays of dawn broke, Mia's heart raced with the possibilities. The world waited, and she felt an exhilarating rush. Tomorrow, she whispered, I'll decide. The weight of that decision enveloped her, heavy with possibilities but laced with fear, leaving her aching for the clarity that might or might not come. The new chapter of her life beckoned, alive with promise and peril, and with it, the specter of judgment loomed ever closer. Would she have the courage to unveil her truth? Mia awoke with the sun pressing against her window, a reminder of the promise she'd made to herself. Today was the day she would confront her fears instead of letting them dictate her path. She felt renewed energy surge through her, a blend of hope and trepidation. It was time to transform her intentions into actions. The hours passed in a blur as she prepared for the meeting with Vincent. She spent the morning meticulously organizing her thoughts, articulating them with clarity in her mind. What did she want her exhibition to convey? Each painting held a piece of her narrative, a dialogue about struggle and resilience that she wanted to share. It was essential for her to define this vision, not just for Vincent but for her own sake. As she stood in front of her canvas, her most profound one adorned with strokes of tumultuous red and serene blue, she visualized the audience witnessing her pain and, in turn, her triumph. It was more than just colors on a surface, it was her memory, encapsulated in every brushstroke. She could feel the pulse of possibility beating within her chest, making her way to the cafe where she was to meet Vincent. Mia's thoughts clashed in a frenzy. What if he didn't think it was good enough? What if all those fears she harbored regarding judgment materialized? Yet, deep down, she had crafted something beautiful from her agony, and that in itself was an achievement worthy of sharing. Inside the cafe, the aroma of coffee wrapped around her like a comforting blanket. Vincent was already seated at a table in the corner, immersed in notes he had spread out like a parachute above his ambitions. When he looked up and smiled at her, she felt an instant rush of reassurance. Here was someone who understood the weight of failure but also the beauty of rediscovery. "Ready?" he asked, his eyes sparkling with sincerity. Mia nodded, her breath catching in her throat. "I've been thinking about how I want people to feel when they see my work." Vincent leaned in, curiosity etched across his face. "Tell me." Taking a deep breath, she started to articulate her vision. "I want them to confront their own pain. To feel it and understand that even at our darkest, there is light waiting to break through. The journey is ugly but necessary." The words poured out of her, each syllable punctuated by the strength she felt building within. As she spoke, she noticed Vincent's expression shift to earnest admiration. He captured every word, the way a collector cherishes an extraordinary piece. "That's powerful," he replied, nodding appreciatively. "But what about you? How will you handle the exposure?" The question hung in the air, and for a moment, Mia felt vulnerability surge again, threatening to overpower her resolve. Would she still shine if people scrutinized her truth? Yet, it was in facing these uncertainties she discovered her burgeoning strength. "I think I need it. I need to show who I am," she replied, her voice steady. "Even if they judge me, I'll still be proud of what I've created." Vincent smiled broadly, and she could see him contemplating the possibilities ahead. "Then let us do it. Let us set a date for the exhibition." The exhilarating rush of uncertainty enveloped Mia once more. The prospect of unveiling herself before an audience was intoxicating and terrifying. She was on the precipice of transformation, both as an artist and as a person. But somewhere in her mind lurked the nagging doubt, the shadows that whispered she was merely a maid with fleeting dreams. She could still hear echoes of harsh words she had endured in the past, condescension wrapped in laughter and judgment. That afternoon, they began planning, drafting ideas about how to present her exhibition to evoke her intended experience. The tasks were pragmatic, yet foundational. Mia focused on the logistics, pulling from a reservoir of determination. This wasn't solely about showcasing art, it was about amplifying her own voice, redefining herself in the world. With each strategy discussed, she felt herself evolving. The woman who hesitated in her personal shadows began to emerge in full color, the layers of her identity binding tighter together. Mia informed Vincent of her desire to incorporate her personal story into the exhibition. She wanted attendees to connect with her work beyond visuals, understanding the narrative that accompanied each brushstroke. The conversation turned into brainstorming sessions, filled with excitement and trepidation. But as they envisioned the exhibition taking shape, Mia felt the familiar rhythm of anxiety creep in. Deep within, she grappled with the question that now clung like a ghost: would she be able to withstand the weight of their glares? Her heart raced as she faced the reality of her upcoming exhibition. It was a plunge into the unknown, a new chapter where vulnerability and strength would intertwine. The stakes were rising, and as she pulled away from the cafe, Mia's mind echoed with her unyielding desire to transform. But that internal dialogue transitioned abruptly to a chilling realization. A shadow loomed larger in her life. What if she was not the only one with something to lose? With uncertainty clouding her vision, the next decision loomed large, a defining moment on the horizon. Would the hidden truths of her past tear down the very future she was desperately trying to build? Mia felt the weight of Vincent's encouragement lift her slightly, yet the doubts lingered like ghosts in the corners of her consciousness. After their meeting, she walked home slowly, absorbing the world around her. Each breath she took was punctuated by a lingering fear and the intoxicating pulse of excitement. The closer she got to her apartment, the more evident the stark contrast between the vibrant life brewing inside her and the stagnant air of her surroundings. Once inside, she stood in front of her canvas again. The melancholic hues seemed to resonate with her inner turmoil. They felt alive, pulsing with the vulnerabilities she both cherished and feared. In that moment, the confrontation with her fear of judgment morphed into a singular focus. What was she really afraid of? Was it the scrutiny of others or the possibility of rejection from herself? The thought clung to her like a shadow. Mia decided to write. She grabbed a notebook and began documenting her feelings, her fears, her aspirations, the weight of her past. This tangible act of crystallizing her thoughts was both liberating and daunting. She sensed a narrative forming, one that could accompany her artworks and weave through the exhibition a deeper connection that might resonate even more profoundly with others. But as she scribbled furiously, there was a moment of stillness within her storm, the realization that she had positioned herself as an artist vulnerable to external judgment. Yet, paradoxically, she realized it wasn't merely the judgment of the audience that terrified her, but what her own judgment might reveal. What if, amidst all the bravado, she discovered she wasn't as strong as she believed, a truth she'd hidden even from herself? The questions that arose necessitated action. Taking a breath, Mia set a new plan in motion. She reserved a small space in her calendar for daily reflection, a ritual she dubbed the heart of the artist. This would be her sanctuary, time carved out for unfiltered honesty and introspection without the pressures of the outside world, a space to face her worst fears and emerge intact. The next weeks unfolded with a rapid intensity, a blend of creation and contemplation. With each brushstroke, each new entry in her notebook, Mia unearthed facets of herself that had remained dormant. The shadows of self-doubt were still there but began to recede, replaced with an inner dialogue of understanding and acceptance. She reminisced about moments in her past, particularly how the skepticism of others had colored her perception of herself. Was she ever truly a maid with desperate dreams? Or could she redefine her identity through her art? Each revelation placated her insecurities as she constructed a mosaic of memories to put on display, not only the colors of struggle but the ones of hope, transformation, and resilience. One evening, inspired, she invited Vincent over to review the themes emerging through her work. She wanted to share the depth of her transformation, confident yet apprehensive. Sharing herself like this felt like a test. Would he still see the artist but also the individual? As they sat on the floor surrounded by her paintings, an unexpected knock sent a shudder through her. Could it be someone unkind from her past? The thought jolted her, and she became momentarily unsteady. "Everything okay?" Vincent's voice broke her spiral of reverie. Yes, I'm fine." Mia forced a reassuring smile, but her heart raced uncomfortably. With renewed determination, she turned back to Vincent. "I'm ready for this exhibition now. I'm ready to show who I am." But deep down, an unsettling thought gnawed at her. Was she truly ready? The fear that her past would intertwine with her future loomed larger than before. As the uncertainty hung heavy in the air, she realized the next exhibition might require more than showcasing her art. It might demand an entirely new confrontation, the kind that could either liberate or shatter her newfound identity. What other secrets lay hidden beneath her surface, waiting to break free? Mia sat on the floor, her heart thundering in her chest at the weight of revelation. She felt as though the very walls around her were closing in, pressing her to confront the past she had so fervently tried to reshape. The knock at the door still echoed in her mind, though it had faded into the background of her thoughts. It was an uninvited reminder of the people and judgments she had run from. "Do you want to check who it is?" Vincent asked, his eyes reflecting genuine concern. "No," she replied with surprising ferocity. "I need to push past this." A wave of determination coursed through her. How long would she let her past dictate her present? It was time to reclaim her narrative. "Let's talk about why you feel ready," Vincent prompted, his voice steadying her spiraling thoughts. Mia looked down at the vibrant chaos of colors sprawled across her canvases. "I've spent years blending into the background. I felt pinned down by what others thought I should be." She paused, contemplating the weight of those words. Now, with every brushstroke, I'm excavating what's been hidden, who I'm meant to be. But are you really ready? Vincent's question pierced her bravado, cutting through the layers of her newfound confidence. His challenge resonated within her, a tight knot of uncertainty stirred. I mean, I think I am, like I've finally got something of real value to show. But then there's this other part of me it worries. What if it all crumbles? Vincent nodded thoughtfully, taking in her hesitations. Confronting your past isn't easy, Mia. Are you prepared to lay those pieces bare for the world? The thought sent tremors through her resolve. The idea of vulnerability had become intoxicating, yet terrifying. What if her art did embody her past struggles, exposing the bleak truths she decrafted under layers of optimism? Perhaps the real question was, what truths would her art force her to confront? I want to be more than the sum of my fears, she admitted, her voice quieter now. But what if that fear turns out to be more powerful than I can handle? Vincent leaned closer, an intensity behind his gaze. Then you confront it. You face it and allow it to reflect in your work. Art can heal, but it can also cut deep. You need to be aware of that, it's a risk. His words ignited a flicker of defiance within her. Mia understood now that this journey of self-discovery was more than just about artistic expression, it demanded a reckoning. She needed to look at her life, each brushstroke revealing not just beauty but the dark realities she had grappled with for so long. Maybe I already have, she whispered, recalling the memories etched into her canvas. With thrilling urgency, she snatched her notebook and began to flip through pages of her thoughts, each unresolved entry a pulse of her unacknowledged sorrow and hope. You're right, Mia exclaimed, inspiration taking root. It can't just be the art. It has to be about the stories behind it. Whatever pieces I include, I have to confront the narratives that shaped me. My work should reflect that journey, my struggle to rise above my past. That sounds like a plan, Vincent replied, his voice laced with admiration. As they continued to discuss her reflections and evolving themes, a sense of clarity washed over Mia. It was no longer simply about showcasing her art, it was about storytelling through the palette of her life. Each piece would pulse not only with color but with the vibrancy of her truth. Then, as if the universe were reacting, the door creaked open. The moment felt surreal, heavy with anticipation. A familiar voice drifted in, almost hesitant. Mia? It's me. Her body stiffened at the sound. Could it really be? Tension tightened around her like a noose. What awaited her on the other side of that threshold? Would it be another encounter with doubt, or perhaps the opportunity to bring closure? The choice before her loomed large: step into the light of revelation or retreat into the shadows of fear once more. Could the unveiling of her past enhance her art, transforming her fears into strength? With her heart pounding in her ears, she glanced at Vincent, who nodded encouragingly. The moment of truth appeared dangerously close. Would she find the strength to confront her past or allow it to haunt her further? Mia's breath hitched as she turned her gaze back to the door, the threshold of uncertainty and familiarity. She hesitated, her mind racing with what lay behind that voice. Surely, it was a face she expected, but the thoughts of past betrayals loomed like shadows, threatening to pull her back into the darkness she had fought so hard to escape. Who is it? Vincent asked softly, his encouraging presence a steady anchor against her rising tide of anxiety. It's my mother, she managed to whisper, the name tasting bitter on her tongue. She hadn't seen her mother in years, not since the break that had carved a rift so wide it felt insurmountable. Do you want me to leave? He seemed to sense the gravity of the moment, ready to provide her with whatever space she needed. No, she said, aligning her will with her intentions. I can't face this alone. With a purposeful stride, she moved to the door, each step echoing the battle within her. The weight of their history pulled at her, but determination surged with each heartbeat. As she opened the door slowly, revealing the figure framed in the evening light, her heart raced with a mix of dread and anticipation. Hi, Mia, her mother said, the words hanging in the air like a fragile truce. The resemblance between them was striking, yet each bore the scars of their choices, molded by a shared past that felt like a chain. Why are you here? Mia asked, her voice steadier than she felt. Her heart raced on the precipice of anger and curiosity. I came to see you to apologize, her mother replied, though Mia could hear the tremor of uncertainty laced within. A long silence stretched, both of them held captive by unsaid words. An apology doesn't change anything, Mia fired back, her resolve flaring. Where were you when I needed you? You vanished, and I had to find my way without you. Each word felt like a brushstroke framing her reality with a clarity she had yearned for but feared to approach. The silence wrapped around them again, drawing Vincent into the fold of unspoken tension. His presence felt reassuring, a quiet testament to her strength. I know I can't undo the past, but I want to give you the truth. I was scared. I didn't know how to be the mother you needed. I was trapped in my own fears, too, her mother confessed, voice trembling like the autumn leaves outside. Mia's anger collided with her mother's vulnerability, and she found herself wavering. Could she really allow the truth to shift the narrative they had locked themselves into for so long? The world felt heavy with possibilities, and beneath her frustration flowed a gentle current of understanding, begging to surface. What if I don't want to be reminded of the past anymore? Mia's voice softened, the intensity of the conversation pulling back in vulnerable threads. What if I want the freedom to define who I am without the ghosts of our failures? The moment hung pregnant with possibility, a fractal of potential pathways branching in every direction. A revelation, perhaps. She could articulate her feelings better now, bringing colors to her chaotic world that wouldn't lead her backward but forward. Mia, it's time to let go of the fear, Vincent interjected gently, sensing the shift in the air. It doesn't have to define you. But would she let go? The prospect of confronting her past, her mother's pain, her own scars both terrified and exhilarated her. The power of truth was at her fingertips, a chance to transform hurt into something beautiful, just as she had envisioned for her art. Maybe it's time I allowed you back in, she said finally, a decision knitted with trepidation and a sensation of even deeper discovery. The door was now not just a threshold to her mother but a gateway to embracing fragments of herself. As her mother stepped inside, the weight of their shared history began to lift, but new whispers of doubt slithered in. Would exposing her vulnerabilities invite healing, or would it unleash more chaos? Mia's heart raced with the exhilaration of this uncharted territory. Together, they could explore the complexities of their stories, uncovering hidden threads that might refashion their relationship. Yet, in that moment of resolve, a sudden flash of doubt crashed over her like a wave. What if in trying to mend their bond, they unraveled the very fabric of her artistic journey? The brush awaited her, eager for the honesty that now coursed through her veins. Would this encounter fortify her narrative or shatter the vision she was only just beginning to embrace? The confluence of her past held both the potential for creation and destruction, and as she looked into her mother's eyes, the question floated between them, raw and palpable: were they ready to face the truth and harness its power to shape their futures? Mia felt the air shift as her mother stepped into the room. The scent of old, unresolved memories hung heavy in the space between them. She could almost taste the years of silence, an invisible barricade that seemed to crystallize the moment, threatening to collapse under the weight of their collective sorrow. Can we talk? Her mother asked, the question hanging there like a thread waiting to be pulled. Mia hesitated for a fraction of a second, weighing the familiar urge to retreat against the flicker of curiosity and desire for closure. Talk. Mia nodded with faux bravado that betrayed the chaos swirling beneath her skin. She glanced at Vincent, silently pleading for his support. He stepped away, subtly shifting his stance to allow the two women to form their fractured circle. What do you want to say? Mia prompted, her words deliberately clipped. She was determined to reclaim some control in the conversation, even as her heart beat in frantic rhythms. I want you to understand why I left, her mother began, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I wasn't strong enough, a single mother struggling with her own demons. Mia could feel her chest tightening as she listened. The familiar feelings of anger and abandonment flashed in quick succession. If her mother had been weak, what did it make Mia? She squeezed her fists, the need for confrontation bubbling within. Then why now? After all these years, how can you think this apology is enough? The question sliced through the air, anger and hurt painted vividly in her tone. "I'm not asking you to forget," her mother replied, fighting the tremor in her voice. "I just want the chance to be better for you, for us." The weight of those words ignited a spark of defiance in Mia. "You think just because you say some magic words, the past disappears? Do you even realize the years of pain it took me to carve out a new life?" Anxiety and frustration tightened around her chest like a vice. Vincent remained quietly supportive, while Mia grappled with the rawness of her emotions. Could she accept her mother's apology? Could she start to weave a new narrative from such a fractured beginning? "I don't want to be defined by your choices, Mom," she said, her voice softer now, edged with a plea for understanding rather than condemnation. "But if you want a chance to be in my life, it has to be with honesty." "Honesty is just what I want," her mother answered, the sincerity reverberating in the air between them. "I want to share my truth with you. No more secrets, no more lies." In that moment, a shiver of anticipation washed over Mia. What if this was the opportunity she had feared to dream of, an authentic reconstruction of their shattered bond? Yet, the apprehension lingered like a shadow that refused to disperse. "Then let us start now," Mia said, drawing strength from her own voice. "Tell me everything. Don't hold back." As her mother took a deep breath, Mia realized this conversation could either build a new foundation or threaten to unleash a maelstrom of concealed pain. The legacy of hurt they had both carried felt heavy, yet the prospect of facing it together was tantalizingly seductive. "After I left, I fell into a cycle I thought I could escape," her mother began. Each confession hinted at stories untold, struggles unknown. Mia's mind wrestled with an overwhelming sense of vulnerability, both hers and her mother's, emotions now intertwined in an intricate dance. But the deeper they delved, the more Mia felt the terrifying echo of her own past rise to the surface. What would emerge from this shared history? Would it bring healing or drown her in regret? Uncertainty tightened its grip, but there was a pulse of hope. Maybe confrontation could pave the way for discovery, perhaps it would illuminate hidden facets of resilience they both shared. As her mother continued to speak, weaving their tales together, Mia pondered the threads of possibility that lay ahead. Each word offered potential, a chance to redefine their legacy, and yet the question lingered at the forefront of her mind, a persistent whisper amid familial revelations. Would their shared truths lay the foundation for a new reality, or would they uncover fractures too deep to mend? Mia's heart raced as her mother's voice filled the air, weaving in and out of a narrative thrumming with tension. Each confession peeled back layers of guilt and shame that had festered for years, revealing a complex portrait of regret. It was as if the walls around them absorbed every word, turning the space into a confessional room where secrets could alight and be scrutinized under harsh light. "I started drinking when I left," her mother admitted, her eyes clouded with memories. "It was an escape, a way to silence the voice telling me I was a coward for abandoning you." Mia shuddered at the admission, contemplating the weight of her mother's pain that mirrored her own. This revelation felt like a gut punch. The knowledge that her mother had struggled similarly was both unsettling and oddly comforting. She was not alone, even in pain. "Did you ever think you could reach out?" Mia found herself saying, the intensity of her question tightening the atmosphere around them. "I was a child, Mom. I needed you." Her mother shook her head, a blend of remorse and shame etched into her expression. "I was so lost, Mia. I convinced myself you were better off without me." The words rang hollow, echoing through the room like a distant tolling bell. Each unspoken mistruth now floated, weightless yet heavy, between them. Mia could feel an ember of resentment igniting beneath her resolve, fueling her desire for honesty. "Forgive me if I find that hard to believe," Mia snapped back, her frustration spilling over. "I had to build my life from nothing. You didn't even want to try and help." Silence fell, punctuated only by her mother's quiet sobs. In that moment, Mia felt a deep crack in her own composure. How could she authorize forgiveness when this flood of resentment bubbled so close to the surface? Her professional life had thrived on strategy, precision, and success. Yet here she stood, stumbling through emotional warfare with someone she should have been able to trust. "I can't change the past," her mother finally said, her voice barely a whisper. But I can change how I try to build our future. I need to show you, not just tell you. Mia's brow furrowed in contemplation. Could she allow herself to believe? The prospect of reconnection was terrifying, yet she yearned for a mother-daughter relationship that wasn't steeped in bitter memories. Then let us explore this together, Mia proposed, swallowing the lump in her throat. But understand, it's going to take time. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight, and I can't promise I won't falter. Her mother nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks as she spoke. I'm prepared to do the work. I want you back in my life, not as a shadow from the past, but as your partner in the present. Mia's mind raced ahead, calculating risks and wondering how this would affect her future. She envisioned herself integrating a new relationship into her life, filled with the familiar tension of unresolved issues. This wasn't just about forgives, it was about redefining who they were together, yet doubt began to gnaw at her resolve. Would she grow to regret this decision? The thought curled around her mind like ivy, wrapping tighter as she stood on the brink of something monumental. Let us see where this leads, she finally said, steeling herself for the journey ahead. Suddenly, the specter of her mother's buried truths was not just a haunting past, it became a catalyst for her own self-discovery. In embracing this convoluted path, could she uncover the dormant resilience within herself? Mia's pulse quickened at the thought. Maybe, just maybe, challenging the legacy of their history could set them both free. But as the initial spark of hope ignited, a darker intuition whispered in her ear, beckoning her to remember the fragility of trust. Would she discover strength in this partnership, or would past disappointments drown out any chance of happiness? Was she ready to be vulnerable again, to confront the buried emotions of her own existence while navigating this treacherous terrain? The tension hovered, almost palpable, as Mia braced herself for whatever revelations awaited in this newfound journey. Mia stood at the crossroads of her emotions, the tension from her mother's revelations coursing through her. Each heartbeat echoed with potential decisions, a cacophony of fear and hope threading through her expectations. She had always viewed struggles through a professional lens, as conflicts to strategize and solve. But this personal landscape was murky and undefined, swirling with the complexity of feelings she had meticulously compartmentalized for years. As days turned into weeks, Mia approached their newfound relationship with a mix of trepidation and cautious optimism. Each time they met, they ventured into vulnerable territories, unearthing buried sentiments like an archaeologist sifting through the dirt of history. With every session, they slowly laid the foundation of a relationship that felt almost foreign to Mia. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. On one of those afternoons, Mia's mother brought a small box filled with old photographs, frozen moments captured in time. They sat at the kitchen table, the light filtering between the leaves outside, casting dappled shadows across the photographs. Mia's heart raced as she observed the sepia-toned images depicting a younger version of her mother, unblemished by time's relentless march. Look at this one, her mother said, handing Mia a picture of a smiling girl sitting on a swing, her laughter almost audible through the image. That was the last summer I spent with you before everything fell apart. Mia felt a lump rise in her throat. She struggled to reconcile the joy in that captured moment with the pain that followed. You don't look sad here at all. What happened? Her mother's fingers trembled as she traced the outline of the swing in the photo. I got lost in my own insecurities. I let them swallow me whole, convincing myself I was doing what was best for you. The truth bore down on Mia, a reminder of how fragile the balance between love and absence could be. They had stepped into the delicate territory of understanding each other not through words that had once divided them but through the silent confession of shared experiences and emotions. Mom, Mia's voice barely breached the air, thick with suppressed emotion, I need to be honest too. I've always believed that vulnerability is a weakness. It's taken me time to realize that it's a strength, a bridge between us. Her mother looked at Mia, a glimmer of pride mingled with sorrow in her eyes. I'm proud of you for seeing that. For realizing that life is about more than just surviving. Mia felt an unfamiliar warmth settle in her chest. She had spent so long navigating life as an individual, a lone wolf forging ahead in her career, that this connection with her mother forced her to confront another side of herself, the emotional one she had kept hidden. It was a revelation that almost frightened her, yet, just as Mia allowed this new chapter to unfold, doubts crept back in. Lurking behind the joy of their reconnection was the ever-present specter of trust. Could she fully embrace this new dynamic? Could her mother truly embody change, or was it merely an illusion crafted in the moment? As their conversations grew deeper, Mia recognized that her mother's vulnerability mirrored her own. The more they shared, the more clarity emerged regarding her past decisions. Yet, the tightening grip of anxiety clawed at her resolve. What if this journey opened up wounds that could never heal? Caught between the fear of relapse and the hope of transformation, Mia swallowed hard, knowing she would need to confront not just her relationship with her mother but also the intricacies of her own being. Deciding to allow herself to be more authentically seen wasn't just a risk, it was a radical act of courage. In those moments of fragility and strength, she realized that every risk and vulnerability was a step toward balance not just between her and her mother, but within herself. But in the shadow of newfound hope lurked a nagging thought. Would her mother's transformation withstand external pressures over time? As Mia looked across the table, the weight of possibilities loomed large, unresolved. The future did not promise clarity, but as she navigated this resurgence of intimacy, she found herself grappling with an inevitable confrontation that lay just beyond the horizon, a confrontation that would pit her values against her fears. The next chapter of her life beckoned with both allure and hesitation, whispering that only through facing the truths of their past could they weave a new narrative. What was the cost of investing in something so precarious? As she pondered the complexity of trust, Mia understood one glaring truth: the moment was ripe for both revelation and risk. The day of Mia's exhibition arrived with a clarity she had never fully possessed. The address to the gallery had been sealed with anticipation, a promise of recognition that both thrilled and terrified her. She had painted each piece with intention, each brushstroke carrying the weight of her past while ushering in hope for the present. That morning, she stood in front of her mirror, contemplating the reflection staring back at her, a woman transformed from the maid of gilded cages to an artist ready to bare her soul. Vincent had played a pivotal role in this metamorphosis. The former Mafia boss now stood beside her, not just as a mentor but as a believer in her art, a partner navigating the uncharted waters of her ambitions. They arrived at the gallery to find it alive with an energy that buzzed in the air. Mia's heart raced, resonating alongside the excitement that filled the crisp space. As guests began to trickle in, she felt her confidence surge. Each person who crossed the threshold into the gallery was there to witness the culmination of her struggles and victories. They were there to see her Mia, the artist. The moment she heard the first words of appreciation whispered among the admiring guests, she felt a wave of fulfillment wash over her. "This piece, it's raw," she overheard someone exclaim as they stood before her mural that captured the vivid swell of her emotions, a riot of colors depicting both despair and emergence. Her mother stood at the far end of the room, observing quietly. They had been slowly redefining their bond, confronted with the work of honesty and vulnerability. Each painting was a thread in the tapestry of their renewed relationship, painful yet beautifully stitched together by shared truths. Mia recognized how far she had come since the days when she flinched at the thought of revealing her aspirations. The whispers that had once wrapped around her, stifling her spirit, had now transformed into applause, igniting her renewed sense of self. She felt validation seep through her, a quiet assurance that she was indeed worthy. As the night wore on, Mia mingled with guests, sharing the stories behind her works. Each interaction breathed life into her artistic narrative, exposing the layers of her experience with a mixture of pride and humility. She articulated her hope that viewers would not only observe the beauty in her art but confront their own vulnerability, empowering them to reflect on their personal journeys. "But, Mia," a viewer asked, pausing to admire one particularly dynamic canvas, "how do you feel about being labeled a maid? Is that not still an identifier that weighs you down?" Mia felt a smile unfurl across her features. "Labels don't define us unless we allow them to. I used to let that title serve as a cage, a limitation. But now, it's part of the mosaic that has created this artist standing before you." She reveled in the acknowledgement as she spoke, a siren call of empowerment echoing in her voice. When the evening came to a close, unexpected applause punctuated the air in acknowledgement not simply of her art but of her journey. Vincent turned to her, eyes radiating unreserved admiration. "You've conquered the space and your fears, Mia. Like the pieces in this gallery, you have staked your claim and declared your right to be seen." Each word wrapped around her like the brushstrokes on her canvas filled with compassion, affirmation, and strength. Mia felt the truths she had tucked away unfurl within her, a release of pent-up tension that had accompanied her journey. As the crowd began to disperse, Mia's gaze shifted towards her mother. In that moment, she understood the gift of vulnerability, a profound light illuminating the rich complexities of their relationship waiting to be explored. She approached her mother, the bittersweet remnants of the past nestling into a gentle acceptance as they stood side by side in front of her work. "We have a long way to go, but I think we can rebuild," Mia said softly, open and willing to chart a new course. Her mother's eyes shimmered with renewed hope. "I want to be part of that journey. For the first time, I see your strength, and it gives me strength." In that instant, time felt suspended, the past eclipsed by a promising horizon. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Mia was ready. She had grown into her narrative, bestowed with a profound sense of agency. She had proven to herself that she was not just a maid or an artist, she was a force of transformation. The exhibition had not simply been a showcase of her art. It had become a watershed moment of genuine self-acknowledgement and reclamation, an evolutionary leap that, together with her renewed relationship with her mother, promised a future of resilience and reinvention. With that commitment cemented in her heart, one final thought surged within her: life was her canvas, and she was determined to paint every ounce of it with purpose, courage, and authenticity. This was not just transformed growth, this was Mia stepping boldly into her future. With innumerable possibilities awaiting, she embraced her new path with a solid confidence that she would not let slip away. Now, a call to action for you: subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that inspire. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show that you care. Comment below with your reactions and theories about Mia's journey, as every voice counts. And finally, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support is more vital than ever. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful message of personal triumph.